Need a new nightstand? You'll love this large DIY nightstand with a big drawer on top and an open shelf on bottom. This is a fun build that can be done in a weekend. Let me show you how. I started by adding pocket holes to the side panels. I added 3 pocket holes along both sides and discovered that these actually got in the way when adding pocket holes to the side rails to attach the legs later on. So instead, you'll want to use 2 pocket holes, keeping them closer to the center. Then I attached the side panel between the 2 rails with 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws. Then I took my assembled side panel back to my Kreg jig to drill 1 pocket hole with the machine set for 1 1/2 inch thick material in that 1x2 rail on the top and bottom. The side panel is attached to the leg at the top, so it is flush with 2 1/2 inch pocket hole screws. Then on the bottom, I attached another 1x2 rail with pocket holes, so it is centered and just a couple inches up from the bottom. Attach it to both legs and then repeat so you have 2 side pieces. Before attaching the 2 side pieces together, I needed to notch out the bottom shelf to go around the legs. I used a jigsaw to do this, and all the specific measurements for how big the notches are is included in the build plans. The link to that is in the description. I also added edge banding to all of the edges of this bottom shelf, not worrying about the notches, just the 4 edges. And lastly, I added 1 pocket hole to each of these 4 corners right before the notch that I will use to attach it to the leg. Now it's time to attach all the pieces together. I started by attaching all of the 1x2s onto the first assembled side pieces. 2 of them frame the front and 1 of them goes on the back in the same place as the 1x2 rail on the bottom of the side. Then I attached the top piece so it was flush with the back and the top to the leg. And lastly, I added the shelf to the bottom. And I discovered it would actually be easier to probably attach the shelf first because I did need a right angle adapter in order to get between that bottom piece and the bottom of the shelf to attach it with my pocket hole screws. Then I flipped the entire thing over onto the second assembled side piece and attached all the pieces, lining them up perfectly like I did on the first side to create my final nightstand base. The nightstand top is created with 3 1x6 boards glued together. I also used pocket holes to keep it nice and flush because that way I could move on without having to wait for my glue to fully dry. I used the face clamps to keep these nice and flush while driving in my screws. I used 1/2 inch plywood to build my drawer box for the nightstand. And I used pocket holes to assemble the drawer box, but you can do it however you like. I'll link in the description below to a blog post I have on 3 easy ways you can build drawer boxes. And all the details for how I assembled it can be seen there. I added a small groove to the center of my drawer front piece to make it look like 2 small drawer boxes instead of just 1. Then I sanded and stained all of my pieces before attaching my drawer slides to the inside of the nightstand. To get a perfectly lined up drawer front, I start by adding the holes for my knobs to the drawer front. Then I lay it on top of the drawer box and get it lined up and perfectly centered. I can then drive screws into the drawer box from the front through these knob holes, and then easily secure my drawer front through the back of the drawer box with my permanent screws. All that is left is to remove the screws, and then I can add my knobs to the front of the drawer box. I used 4 figure-8 fasteners to attach the top to the nightstand base. Then I can reinstall my drawer and add knobs, and it's all done. I absolutely love how this nightstand turned out. The single large drawer on top is going to be great for lots of storage. And if you're ready to build one for yourself, I'll put the link to the plans down below and visit housefulofhandmade.com for more things to build for your home.